show you how to make blueberry muffins. The purpose of me showing you how to make this is we are in the unit of quick breads. Quick breads means that it's quick to rise, quick to bake, quick to eat. So today I'm going to show you these blueberry muffins using what's called the muffin method, which is a technique for mixing the ingredients together. In addition to other methods in this unit, they're very similar, but it's all in how you mix the ingredients together. So the muffin method specifically has you measuring the dry ingredients and the liquid ingredients, and then dumping the liquid into the dry and mixing just a little bit. The batter will be somewhat clumpy, which is totally normal, but if you don't focus on using this dry liquid, your muffins, you run the risk of them not turning out as accurately and tasty as you are looking for. Okay, so let's get started on measuring. Now, when you're in class, you're probably, depending on the schedule, going to have one day to pre-measure, and then you'll do lab. So when you look at your recipe, it says preheat the oven. I am going to be making these muffins today. You may not be making them on day one, so this may not be your first step. So I'm going to turn my oven on, where you're going to preheat it to 350 degrees. This is the most common temperature when you're making most baked products, especially in quick bread. So 350, I'm going to keep my timer off. Make sure the fan is on. It doesn't matter if the light's on or not. If the fan is not on, when you turn it on and when you put the product in there, the heat will not circulate and it will take your product a long time to bake. So let's get started on our measuring. As I said, it's really important that you're measuring dry in one bowl, liquid in another. And I'm going to put my ingredients in that fashion. And it's nice because your recipe is laid out that specific way. It first says sift together the dry ingredients, and then in parentheses it has you measuring the flour, sugar, baking powder, and salt. Those are all considered dry ingredients in this recipe. Okay? Now, some of the ingredients are going to have you measure using a scale. Okay? Now we have a couple of different scales in class. I'm going to show you this specific one, and most of them all work just about the same way. This one is battery operated, so make sure if it doesn't turn on, it's not because the machine is broken, it's because you need a new battery. Just let your teacher know. It's self-explanatory. You're just going to turn it on and let it wait. If you keep touching it and touching it and touching it, it's not going to work the way you want it to. So just be patient, okay? Now, right now, it is in ounces. On your recipe, the units vary from ounces, grams, milliliters, teaspoons, pounds, etc. You need to make sure you are looking at your ounces, or at your unit on your recipe, and make sure it corresponds with the unit on the scale. If your recipe calls for 8 ounces of flour and you have this in grams, your measurements are going to be off and your recipe will probably not turn out. Okay? Now, I want to measure in ounces, but however, sometimes I might want to switch it to grams. To do that, you're just going to press the mode. And as you can see, there's different units. So now it's in grams, and there it's in pounds. Okay? Keep in mind that these little scales only go up to 32 ounces, so you wouldn't be able to measure in mass production using one of these smaller scales. They do sell larger ones, but for class use, this works perfect. Okay? So I've already actually measured out our flour, but let me show you how to do this. In class, and when you're pre-measuring, since you're going to be putting the ingredients in baggies, you can put it directly, a baggie on here, and then, add in together, or you can put it in a bowl, whatever you feel most comfortable with. But what you want to keep in mind is right now it's weighing the bowl. If I added my flour now, it's going to add in the bowl plus the flour. That's not going to work for us because you'll have an inaccurate measurement. So you're going to want to zero it out. Okay? It's always best to just zero it out and make sure it says 0. So right now it's saying that nothing is being weighed, and that's what you want. Okay? So now I'm going to put my flour in, and I'm looking for 8 ounces of flour. Okay? So you're going to dump it on in until it says the 8 ounces. Ooh, and good thing I am measuring this because now I'm a little bit off. A little bit under. I'm going to go grab a little bit more flour. Okay, so now I'm just going to spoon in a little bit more flour, and it's right on the 8. Okay? If it says 8.1, yeah, it's going to make a difference. You may not be able to taste the difference, but you want your measurements to be as accurate as possible. Okay? So now I'm going to take my flour and dump it right on in. Okay? My next ingredient is sugar. And I've already measured this to 5 ounces. You were looking for 5 ounces. Clean as you go. A clean chef is a good chef. Next up is our baking powder. Baking powder is a leavening agent. In quick breads, you will see that most of your recipes are going to call for baking powder or baking soda or both. And we'll go more in detail in them during the student when we talk about the specifics of them. This particular recipe only calls for baking powder. Make sure, because sometimes students can get confused, that you're reading it. Because if you accidentally add baking soda in place of the baking powder, it could alter the way the recipe works. So make sure that you are paying attention to the label. So this calls for 2 teaspoons. Now, if you took Cuisine Chef, we always push measure by eye, measure by eye. In this class, you don't want to measure by eye. You don't want to measure by eye because you're going to have an inaccurate measurement. And since baking is a science, it's very important that it's as accurate as possible. So 2 teaspoons, I'm going to add it directly to this. You will be pre-measuring, so this will go into a baggie. Not its own baggie. You can incorporate all dry ingredients in the same baggie, whatever you feel most comfortable with. Okay. And then our last dry ingredient is our salt. Salt is just going to give it a little flavor to balance out the sweetness. But if you add too little salt, it will have a bland flavor in your finished product. And if you add too much salt, it's going to be incredibly salty to the point where most people probably won't want to eat it. So it does make a difference. I see a lot of students will say, oh, a 1/4 teaspoon, but they mistake it for a 1/4 cup, and then they come up with a 1/4 cup measuring cup and measure it and add it to their product. And those muffins are now inedible. You will not be able to eat them. It will be disgusting. Okay, add this directly to. And now I'm just going to mix these up. It says to sift this together. You can, if you have a sifter available, you can bring it through. All sifting is going to do is break up the particles of the flour to make light and fluffy, and to also combine the dry ingredients together. You can also do this using a wire whisk, a fork, and whatnot. I'm going to use a wire whisk really quick, and you can see my lumps are gone, and it's light and fluffy. This is what you want it to look like. You want to kind of separate the particles apart. Okay, so now our dry ingredients are measured. Excellent. Next up is our dry ingredients. Our dry ingredients are milk, some eggs, which I had right here for us. Let me just get this out of the way. A little bit of vanilla, blueberries for our blueberry muffins, and then some lemon zest. Okay, we're going to start off by measuring our eggs. 2 eggs, okay, is all you need. Always break them separately and not directly into the bowl, just in case there's any blood or whatnot. Not always a very common thing to see, but sometimes when you break the egg directly in and you see a streak of blood from, you know, when they were hatched and whatnot, then you have to throw the whole thing away. And I'm just going to kind of whisk these up a little bit before I put them into my wet bowl. This is an ingredient you don't want to pre-measure, because sometimes when you pre-measure the eggs and whip them, they kind of get a little bit discolored. Unless you're going to use it directly the next day, don't crack those eggs open. Okay? Next up, we're going to do 8 ounces of milk. Now, units, ounces, okay? Because milk is a liquid ingredient, it's fluid ounces, so you can use a liquid measuring cup. Sometimes students are mistaken and they measure it on a scale. Why waste that extra minute of time? Just put it directly in the liquid measuring cup. I've already measured out the 8 ounces. Again, be careful. 8 ounces is 1 cup, but sometimes in some of the measuring cups, students just keep going and they end up measuring 2 cups and then they wonder why their muffins never set because they're so liquidy and falling apart. I'm just going to add that directly to our bowl. Next up is 2 ounces of butter. 2 ounces of butter is going to be measured directly on here, and in most cases, it is going to be equivalent to 4 tablespoons of butter. Okay, and I've already measured that for us, and it should be at room temperature. Or, oh, I'm sorry, I'm mistaken. It should be melted because you're mixing this by hand. I'm going to pop this into our microwave.